And you do know that the weekend was full of NPP activities. Of course, it was the NPP primaries. Now, chairman of the governing NPP, Freddie Blay, is fighting off claims that the loss of over 40 incumbent MPs in the just-ended parliamentary primaries would have dire consequences for the party in the upcoming December polls. Mr. Blay describes the loss of the MPs as regrettable. He, however, argues that the delegates chose candidates with the requisite acumen to advance the party's fortunes. Almost 25% of NPP MPs, including the chairman of the Finance Committee, Dr. Marcus Beyeboa, who contested to retain their seats in the just-ended primaries, lost. Some political watchers have observed that the move will hurt the NPP, but the chairman of the party disagrees. He's been speaking to JoyNews' Kwesi Parker Wilson.
We are yet to have the full report from the various constituencies, but offhand, I will say, speaking for myself as an individual, it's been a keenly contested primaries. Nothing that we could do in terms of influence, irrespective of what people may even say, that the party could have, as you mentioned, protected its sitting MPs, more so those who were manning various committees or even front benches and so forth. But going by constitution, the constitution says we should do this. There is an extent to which you can persuade people not to participate or not to partake in the primaries. We did try in some cases to do so. But at the end of the day, a contest is the very first rule about democracy. And our constitution, the party's constitution, allows that, provides for that. And we've gone through that. Thank God, it's been keenly contested. People have shown so much interest. To me, it depicts the vibrancy of the party. Although, or notwithstanding, a few casualties that are taking place unexpectedly.
It's not few casualties. I mean, that's the argument that, as we speak, 41 MPs lost their seats. In fact, there's accusation that some of the leadership, the party leadership, the hierarchy, and I'm talking about yourself and NEG, actually engineered some of the defeat. How do you respond to that? With reference to Esebeyebo's constituency, that is New Jabusas.
I deny that. I want to be honest with you. There could be individuals who have their own biases and preferences in the various constituencies. But as a policy, I don't think the party, NEC, did not engineer the exit or the defeat of any individual MP. Of course, I would have loved, speaking for myself, this is after the fact, I would have preferred Esebeyeboa being a member of the to retain the seat, considering the very vital role he's been playing.
Chairman of the NPP speaking to my colleague Kwesi Parker Wilson. Let's head to the Ashanti region, where the region is talking peace after 9 of the incumbent parliamentarians there lost the bid to represent the party in the December polls. Regional organizer Francis Adumako describes the outcome of Saturday's primaries as not so shocking. He says the regional executive will organize peace and unity fora to bring both winners and losers on board for the task ahead. Mr. Adumako also believes that losing candidates especially cannot afford to sit on the fence ahead of the party's general elections campaign. Ohim Interior has more.
9 incumbent MPs failed in their re-election bid as delegates decided otherwise. They include Deputy Rose Minister Kwabena Owusu Adiomi for Ejiso, Daniel Ochem Abuaje for Bantama, Ishaesos Kennedy Kankam and Abdullah Banda for Finso South. The rest are Joseph Kwam, Manson Kwanta, Collins Owusu Amankwa Menshia North, Dr. Kojo Apia Kubi, Achuma Kwangoma, and Insuta Kwamambi Posos Kwame Asafweji, and also Joyce Dare of Bosome Freho. For Mr. Adumako, the new entrants may be new, but they are true supporters who have contributed diversely to build the party.
All these people who won are not alien to the party. They are part of the party. NPP, we always say we have the men. Definitely, when there is a race of this particular nature, people who deem it fit will by all means come and compete. All those who contested are able men and women of the party. Each of them are capable. So we believe that the delegates have decided, and we should respect the decision of the delegates. I believe that the other people who lost have not lost. The party have won. My prayer is that they should not relent, they should not relax, they should not sit back. We should all come together and fight a common goal.
According to Mr. Adumakun, the party will initiate unity discussions with losers and victors to have all hands on deck for 2020 elections. He appeals to all contestants to accept the outcome of the election and join the national campaign.
We don't want a situation whereby the constituency will be divided, because when the constituency is divided, it will be difficult for us to get a maximum number of people going to the voter registration centers to go and register. Now that the election is over, all of us should come together with a united front. There shouldn't be anybody's camp. We shall have the party NPP. My plea first is to all the winners that they should not relax. First, they should move to all those who lost. Invite them. Let's all move together so that we'll move the party forward.
Regional office, do any unity rally or something?
We as a party will also not sit down. We will do our homework. We will bring all the various aspirants together and we'll talk to them so that all of us will unite and move the party forward.
From Kumasi, Ohimi Tewia reporting.
What would this do to Parliament in itself? Let's have a quick conversation with Dr. Rashid Rahman, who's joining me all the way from Canada via Zoom. Dr. Rashid Rahman, thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate your patience. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I'm just wondering, you probably monitored this from wherever you are or over the weekend, and you saw, I mean, at least we're looking at about 40 or 41 people in Parliament who are having to leave Parliament. What does that say to you?
Well, I mean, what it does say is that we are already in some kind of a deficit in terms of the participation and performance of members of Parliament when it comes to the core business of lawmaking and oversight. And these losses that we have witnessed, I think, first of all, the losses are going to have an impact on the remaining time in Parliament, and also would have an impact when we get to the 8th Parliament, because for the remaining time in Parliament, you are going to see these people who have lost. I mean, humanly, they are going to be, I mean, demotivated, if you like, in terms of the performance of their duties. And then when we get to the 8th Parliament, if you add this number to the possible losses that we are going to see in December, you might be counting about maybe 50% plus attrition rate. And that certainly will have an impact on the work of Parliament.
Some analysts have said that Parliament has a way of re-engineering itself. So even though some people are leaving, it actually affords other people the opportunity to come in and to learn. And these people who are leaving will then be able to hand down the experiences and the knowledge that they've had to these people. Should Parliament not focus rather on a smooth system through which information and knowledge can be passed on to other people rather than be concerned about those who are leaving?
Well, I think there are positives to both arguments, but right now, I think those who argue that knowledge can be passed on, there is no, I can tell you, Gifty, there is no organized and formal way of passing this knowledge and information to new entrants in Parliament. I haven't seen that. I've been involved with this Parliament since the beginning. I haven't seen anything like that. You know, in terms of Parliament re-engineering itself, you know, there is one militating factor in our constitutional arrangement, which is the fact that, you know, we take a lot of MPs from Parliament to join the executive. I mean, that constitutional arrangement already is a big factor that weakens the role of Parliament, because most people go into Parliament, you know, they end up focusing more on their work in the executive than on their work being legislators. So we don't have, you know, I mean, a critical mass of people who have developed their skills as legislators over the years. I mean, you can just count at the tip of your fingers. I mean, when it comes to, you know, the core work of Parliament, lawmaking, and scrutinizing bills and so on. I mean, we have heard over and over, and this is a fact, that there are only a few MPs that, I mean, show interest and demonstrate skill in terms of doing this. And then you have all these things happening. It weakens our Parliament further. And I've heard people, if you permit me, say that, you know, the issue of representation and people decide who represents them. And I just had the chairman of the NPP say, you know, nobody had any hand in engineering anybody's fall or anybody's entry into, I mean, winning or losing and so on. But if you critically look at what happened, maybe the question to ask is, how come a lot of the CEOs of some of our state enterprises won over current MPs, and some of the MPs are very competent MPs, like you talked about Dr. Asibebwa, who heads the Finance Committee. And then over the weekend, I have seen a lot of news items about, I mean, candidates going to retrieve 125 bicycles, some saying we paid the gift tabletop free, and so on. I mean, very, very disturbing. I mean, it's not very much about who is going to go into Parliament and represent people much better. It is more about who can pay. And I think that is what is very disturbing for our democracy currently.
Okay. So finally, Doc, what can we do in terms of maintaining the quality of parliamentary debate, if you like, with the expected end that people will leave anyway, depending on how delegates vote? Is there a way that we can manage this going forward in terms of passing down information to other people and ensuring that too many people who are aligned to the executive do not find themselves in Parliament?
Well, I think, Gipsy, there are a number of things that can be done. I mean, in the long term, I've been reflecting on this myself in terms of some of the work that we have been doing over the years, strengthening Parliament and so on. And then you wake up and, I mean, people disappear, and then they don't end up getting the chance to contribute, I mean, the little that they have lent back into our democracy. I mean, I've heard arguments from both sides, I mean, the majority leader and the minority leader, about, you know, some form of protection for experienced members of Parliament. I mean, there's a very strong argument to that, because in some countries, you see they stagger legislative elections in such a way that not all MPs are presented at the same time for re-election. So that way, if you have a 2-year overlap, then you have a situation where even if you end up losing some MPs, not all experienced MPs will disappear from the floor of the House. That helps in ensuring that knowledge is passed on and people get to learn the ropes before the next elections. For instance, as it is done in the US, where they have midterm elections and then they have the other elections. Others have also spoken about finding a way to protect some seats. We have seen that a number of seats were protected in this primaries. I mean, it was done in a way that, I mean, for me, I would describe some of it as quite undemocratic, because a lot of people have complained that, we were forced out and so on. Some have complained we want to file our nominations. We go to the office. I mean, the office is closed. We can't find the chairman of the party. We can't pick forms and so on. I mean, these are all arrangements that could be done within the party. I mean, I believe there is a need for some form of protection, but this is an arrangement that could take a very long time, and that could be done within each of the parties, so that way, based on their legislative agenda going into the elections, they know, I mean, which MP to protect and which MP to let go in terms of maybe going to face a competition. And then we've been talking about gender and so on and so forth. For instance, we saw the deputy majority leader. I mean, if there was any seat that would be protected in terms of women representation in parliament, I thought that was one seat that should have been protected. But we saw how, I mean, I think it became one of the hotly contested seats in the last. Everybody was watching that particular seat. So, I mean, all I'm saying is, if we are not careful, the way money is playing a very huge role in our parliamentary and other elections, and there are no proper mechanisms for ensuring continuity and so on, we might wake up one day and face a situation like what Senegal faced one time. 95% of the MPs disappeared from parliament. I mean, that doesn't build a democracy.
Right.
So I think the parties need to begin carefully thinking about this and making sure that they have in place mechanisms, not to wait until maybe a few months before the primaries, and then all this running around and brutal tactics are used to eliminate some people and to protect, I mean, some others.
Very well. Doc, thank you so much for your time and also for your patience. Dr. Rashid Rahman is the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He joined us all the way from Canada via Zoom.